Hi, I'm Olivier Maury. I work for Industrial Light and Magic. I'm a Principle R&D Engineer and I lead the rendering group. Different things. They're either sit in meetings to try to figure out how to tackle a particular challenge of a movie that's coming up. Also making sure that we're tackling the right challenges in terms of technologies that we're working on. And also making sure that people are happy at their job. At ILM, we do a lot of digital pyro, and we've done a lot of digital pyro work over the years. From I think in my presentation I started talking about 2001 and Pearl Harbor up to 2009, where we were challenged with The Last Airbender. And up until then, we were either doing massive simulations, CPU simulations, that would be overnight and multiple days for the entire iteration, simulation and rendering. And so that was, on one hand, a particular pipeline. On the other hand, we experimented with a GPU on Harry Potter 6, doing very quick iterations for the fire in Harry Potter 6, where Dumbledore is summoning a fire tornado. And there we were pretty successful in leveraging the power of the GPU, though the technique we came up with was sort of limited in terms of looks and it also in terms of camera moves. The camera couldn't really orbit around the event because it was a technique that was kind of a 2D, 2.5D technique where the fluid sims were computed on slices. And so we had these two techniques, one that was a very nice workflow for artists in terms of iteration time, very quick, and but not too flexible or powerful, or flexible, I should say. And on the other hand, this incredibly flexible technique, but with a definite a significant turnaround time. And so that's how Plume came about. It was kind of a happy medium. So for the last Airbender, what we wanted to do is to find a methodology, a tool that would allow us to iterate very quickly to converge towards what the director wanted, which is these fire-bending events where we could like orbit around the camera and control the look of the fire. And so yeah, that's what we did. We over the course of 6 months, we coded the first version of Plume that came online, and that is a simulator and a renderer combined in a single step that uses the GPU. Multiple things. One, it's that it's a fluid dynamics simulation. So it's fluid dynamics, and then to simulate fluid dynamics is inherently hard because these are pretty complex equations to solve. So that's one thing. If we were to simulate fire as it is, that alone is actually pretty hard, and this is just fire. We're talking about explosions, that involves combustion models. But what we do is not just simulate the event. What we're doing is also controlling it, art directing it, making sure that we can get to what the director wants to see on screen. And that's actually having this combination of both, the actual simulation of a particular event that could happen in real life, but in a very controllable way, in a very controllable and art directable setting. That combination is very, very challenging. And so that's why the task itself is pretty challenging and usually requires a lot of iteration. And that's the key, that an artist can iterate over and over to fine-tune and tweak a particular event or a simulation so that it fits right there in the shot. The tools are getting better and better, and the technology behind the tools is getting better and better. The resources, the computational resources that we have are getting, there's more and more of these resources, so that the artists are actually able to push the limits of what we can put on screen in terms of simulation and replication of what happens in real life. That being said, there's another aspect to creating digital pyro that I haven't mentioned, which is the volume of work that needs to be done. not only do we do often, we ask artists to do very challenging and very challenging events, just single events, hero events, but we also ask them to do huge amounts of them. And so it's not uncommon, and for example, in my presentation I was mentioning in Transformers 3, over the course of 6 to 7 months, we ran 13,000 simulation. That's a huge amount of simulation. We couldn't have done that before Plume. Plume is one of the key characteristics of Plume is that it's fast because it leverages the GPU. It's entirely written on the GPU. It's entirely written to run on the GPU, and so on Transformers 3, we were able to run 13,000 simulation over the course over the 6 months period, which allowed us to have a huge amount of elements in the show for smoke, fire, and explosion. I wish we could just build because we want to build it, but we can't. I mean, the financial constraints are such that we really build when we can't buy it off the shelf. And this is one of these examples where there's nothing out there that is exactly like Plume. Plume really fits a particular demand, which is to be able to produce an incredible quantity of elements at a certain quality. And that is something that even now, it's about 4 years after we started writing Plume, it's very hard to even start seeing a tool that would kind of match that kind of throughput and quality. I could point to some tools that are going in that direction. Definitely on the quality side, I mean, there are incredible tools like Houdini Pyro and things that you can buy off the shelf, but they don't have the same throughput. You can't produce as many elements because they're just not coded that way. And so that's usually why we go a certain route and decide to build a tool, is because we don't see it, we can't buy it off the shelf. I lead the rendering group, and so this group is in charge of shaders, which are all the programs that we run for rendering that simulates materials and how these materials react to light. And so this group is usually involved in production, with particular production over the course of the shows, and helps production with the look of the assets and how these assets react to light, and so we provide support and new technologies sometimes on shows when we haven't tackled a particular rendering challenge, like skin or particular types of cloth or these kinds of things.